another thread, with this
Because
one
I give
requiring no
TikTok CEO
context for
favors.
its darkness to be
Let
understood.
Jamie have a voice on
The
your
post
live
was
show.
made to
Make it
Ask
happen.
Reddit, where a user
That's
asks
crazy.
Redditors who know how much time they have left, how does your day look like?
Ooh, this
The
one's gonna
post
be dark.
proceeded to go viral almost instantly, as hundreds of people flocked to tell their stories, with all of the top results coming from those who actually suffered from some type of terminal illness. One user wrote, ALS, rapidly progressing. Every day I get worse. Couldn't get my shirt on today. Not really enough strength and energy to eat, though I am being yelled at for losing weight. No pain, for which I am thankful, but unable to do most things we take for granted. I have T-Rex arms now, probably won't be able to walk or stand in the next few weeks. I am working hard to get the prescription for death with dignity. This is not how I want to live. I think I'll be lucky to make it to Christmas, more like early November at this rate. I don't want to live like this anymore.
This one's gonna be sad.
Another says, my days are a mixed bag. Some days
Aw,
I don't
man.
want to get out of bed,
Yeah.
and when I do, I can't seem to find the energy to leave
Might
the
be
house.
a sad one.
I have tumors all over my spine, so when
Oof.
things go really bad for me, my legs will probably be the first to
Pretty
go.
bad.
This is my time, and it took me a lot of dying before I could take a deep breath and let go of the stress of living. Sometimes the best thing you can do is crack a beer and watch some TV and not
Imagine
feel
not
guilty
making
about
for
it.
Christmas.
It's easy to feel like you absolutely
Come
need to
on,
make
man.
each day count, but if I'm happy, I'm happy. The examples go on from there, as so many users have come together to share
could
their
never.
experiences, and it's
Trex
interesting
arms
to
is
see
crazy.
how all
Yeah.
of their answers differ. With some, they preach positivity, and somehow through it all they have found their inner peace. While others, well, are clearly struggling to come to terms with what will soon happen to them. With most feeling guilty for what they have put their families through, and what their families will soon go through once they're gone. It's all just
I bet it
horribly
still gives
depressing,
that one too.
and unfortunately, it's far worse than I described.
Imagine getting knocked
As I
out by
left
a
out
guy.
one devastating note, with that being that this thread is actually over 5 years
you
old,
fuck.
and those accounts that had shared their stories, both good and bad, have now
This one's
fallen
2 years
silent,
old.
leaving
That's
the
fucked.
accounts responsible for practically all of the top stories
El
in this
Bozo.
thread abandoned, with no updates in years. This thread is no longer a group of people sharing what their last days will look like. It's showing what their last days did look like, as it appears that the vast majority of them
That-
are no longer with us,
that took-
succumbing to the fate that
That took a really dark turn all of a sudden.
they
Don't
knew
feel
was
good.
No
around the
one-ups.
corner.
No one
Leaving
ups.
this as, in my opinion, one of the most painful threads I've ever scrolled through.
Wait till you see New York from our point of view. Spend the sunset on top of the world.
It's rare to see so many people know how their future is going to turn out,
That was
and the
crazy.
fate that lies ahead.
That one was so
But
dark.
most of the time, the future turns out to be far more surprising than you can ever imagine, which leads us to a website called airliners.net, where 21 years ago, a group of users began a discussion centered around an impossible situation. But for just a brief moment in time, they pondered it, with the subject line reading,
UNC.
if a 707 hit the World Trade Center. A user
What?
named MD90 starts the discussion by saying, when the two towers that made up the World Trade Center were built, they were designed to withstand the impact of the largest airliner of the day, the Boeing 707
Ooh, this is my
Intercontinental.
jam.
Oh,
The Empire
fuck.
State Building survived a B-25
Oh, this
medium
was
bomber
21
crashing
years
into
ago.
it on a very foggy day. It was during the weekend when most people weren't there, but still, 14 people died. Anyone want to bet that the World Trade Center could survive a 767 impact? This post was
Don't
met
let
with the
Riley see
response,
this.
let's not try that,
Boo-ha-ha,
okay?
Bozo,
One terror
thousands of
attempt was
people
enough.
help.
From there,
Mama,
others chime
911.
in, with one adamantly
Why do you
saying,
say that,
"My
Dark?
There's no way. Just imagine a fully loaded airliner the size of a 707 slamming into any building. Think about it." And the discussion carried
Ha-ha,
on from
September
there.
jokes.
One person wrote a rather lengthy, well-thought-out response saying, if a 707
I'm not
or a
American. I don't
757
remember
slammed into the World Trade
I do.
Center, It might be much more damaging than the case of the B-25 bomber that crashed into the Empire State Building. It is very doubtful any passengers or crew would have survived such a grim. Also, there are probably more people per floor in the World Trade Center compared to the Empire State Building, so casualties in the building will likely be much higher.
Huh.
Another user responds by saying the structure itself would survive, as the buildings are surrounded by other buildings, and thus only a hit could take place high up on the structure, meaning not at or really near ground level. If it could somehow penetrate and hit the base, that would take it out completely, but a hit 500 or 600 feet up most likely wouldn't take out the whole thing. Within this
Which
thread
ones?
was even an employee who had been working at the World Trade Center at the time, who chimed in stating, "I am working in downtown New York at the World Trade Center, and when someone is in the observation deck of the World Trade Center, you see planes approaching the LaGuardia Airport, not far away from the building. Sometimes you think that the plane is coming to hit the building, and I always think, what if a pilot crashes a plane on us?"
Crazy.
The conversation
Don't go to
eventually
high.
leads to someone saying, "The scenario is really hellish. I think the flight disaster record, Tenerife, 1977, 582 dead, might get reset by a lot. You would easily have 1,500 or more, since you would have 200 in the plane, at least 500 in the building, and a real shitload on the ground. If the building managed to fall, there might be 5 or 6,000 dead. Oh well, that's why they put AC lights on the buildings." This was the final message written in that thread. A thread based around a impossible
Julio is
situation,
young
a
enough
situation
for
that
Diddy
could
to like.
only live in one's imagination, or at least at the time it was. Not even 1 year following this thread, 2 Boeing 67 planes would crash into the World Trade Center, forever
Yo.
changing the course of world history. The same planes that user
Imagine being those
MD90
guys.
had referred to when saying, "Anyone want to bet that the World Trade Center could
Don't
survive a
forget the baby
767
oil.
impact?" And as it turns out,
It was a
couldn't.
canon event.
It was.
And that's the history.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
I
Imagine
love the baby oil.
imagine being those people that wrote that thread and were basically talking about the future a year before it happened. That's insane to me. They were talking about a fucking terrorist attack that happened a year before. That's fucked. We live in a fucking weird fucking world, man.
I would have won the bet.
Okay.
Like The Simpsons.
Yeah.
I got inspiration from them.
Dude, you weren't even alive. Shut up, Julio. Listen, there was a movie about the World Trade Centers collapsing, I think, before, like 6 years before it happened. It's called World Trade Center. Wild stuff.
When it happened.
I was. You want to know my
He
story?
was like 30 at the time.
You bitch. You fuck. Do you want to know my world? Let's talk about 9/11 real quick, because I know you guys want to. I
LMAO.
went to school, right? I went to school at 8
The
a.m.
world is never gonna get rid of me.
I went to school at 8 a.m. And so, bro, I was 6. No. Yeah, I would have been 6 at the time. So, when I was 6, I would have went to school, and my mom was at home at the time, right? So she sent us to school, and at that time,
Lucky.
at 9, what time was it when it got hit? It was like,
When I was 3.
bro, I was 3, I'm old as fuck. Yo, I would have been, how old? Yeah, I would have been 6. I'm trying to think of this, because my mom's told me a bunch of times, but I can't remember it. We all went to school. I think Brett, my younger
I
sister.
wasn't even 1 yet.
That's crazy. Young ass bitch.
I was an Indian person back then.
Alright, bro. Okay. Trying to think. What time was it? I have to Google.
Wait, was Riley around for it? Yes.
Okay, so it happened
UNC.
at 7:59 a.m. New York time. So New York time. New York is 3 hours ahead of us. So I would have been sent to school after it happened, I think. Am I wrong? I thought I was at school. I'm pretty sure I was.
Checks out. So, your mom knew.
Maybe. Said they start... Yeah, my mom always watches the news. Eastern time.
Mountain.
Mountain.
EST Mountain.
EST. Is this an EST? Sorry, I'm just trying to find out what actual time it happened at. You little bitch. Okay, it's saying they started at 8:45 and ended at 10:28. So I probably was in school when it happened. So when the first plane either got hijacked or crashed into the World Trade Center, I would have been at school already. And then I think everyone went home. Because I remember my mom coming to get us. Yeah, so 8:46 is when the first plane hit. I always thought it was 9 for some reason.
Free day.
Free day, yeah. Because my mom always watches the news in the morning. Right, so she probably sent us to school, found out the terrorist attack happened, so they came and got us. Crazy. What a time. Because I would have been 6, my older sister would have been 8. And we probably went to the same school. And then my younger sister went.
Bet you were happy to get out of school, weren't you?
Oh, probably. 100%. 100% I was happy to get off school. I hate school, bro. I hated school. How old were you, Riley? You were 1? You were 2 months from your first birthday. Shit. You weren't even born yet. That's crazy.
2 months from 1.
2 months from 1. That's crazy to me. And Dark, you said you were 3? Yeah, that's crazy. Julia wasn't even a thought. That's crazy. Imagine
I was 2.
you were 2. Yeah, I would have been 6.
Ah, now they know my birth month.
Oh, no.
A few weeks before birthday.
Yeah.
I was India back then.
You weren't even a thought. That's crazy. What a weird time. It's like I kind of remember it, but I know more now than I did back then, obviously. Anyways, that's true.
As part of my channel, I have a tendency to focus in on disturbing videos and channels. But recently, I've fallen down the rabbit hole of another form of media, photographs, and specifically final photographs, the
Ooh.
last pictures taken in a person's life. And across the web,
There's
there
this-
are millions of examples of this,
Hopefully they
with
show
an
it.
endless supply waiting in the future.
There's this one that always sticks with me. It's like a photograph of this guy pointing a gun at his ex-girlfriend or girlfriend, and then he popped her.
Because at some point, everyone will have their final picture taken, including you and I, whether we know it at the time
Or there's
not.
this one with this guy in a
Many of
shower
the
coming out of the
examples we
shower.
can find today are
All right, Dark.
heartbreaking or even
I think they're in
inconspicuous,
my basement.
while others, well, are much more disturbing.
What's in your basement?
On April 18th, 2000,
There's this one photo. There's 2 that I remember. There's the one of the guy pointing the gun, and they take the photo right before he shoots like a bunch of people. And then there's another one with this guy coming out of the shower, and the girlfriend takes the photo right before killing him. Brutally. Like, slashes the fuck out of him.
2021, a torrential rainstorm began to wreak havoc in Houston, Texas, along with many surrounding areas. The rain fell in excess of 24 inches within just a single
Relationship
day,
goals.
flooding the streets and many of the waterways nearby, leading to roads being
Wow.
completely covered with feet of rushing water.
A
And
video that messes
unfortunately
me
for
up
a
is you'll never know
21-year-old
when you take your
Darren
last
Mitchell,
breath.
he would be caught
is that?
directly in its
We
crossfire.
could watch that.
After attempting to make his way home
Never
on
heard of it.
Highway 105, the floodwaters quickly overtook the road around him to the point that it was impossible for the car to move any longer, leaving Darren stranded in his vehicle.
Can you
at the
pin
mercy
this,
of the
Julio?
raging
Can you
water,
pin what Dark
water
just
that was
said?
rising quickly. And given the conditions of that road in particular, well, he knew rescue would likely be a long ways away. Before Darren knew it, the water had
Excellent.
made it all the way up to the top of his car,
Just so I know
as it
what to
slowly
watch
began
after this.
trickling in through the
I'll
crevices.
send it.
Growing increasingly helpless,
Alright.
Darren decided to call up his
I'll probably
family
just YouTube
just
it.
to tell him that
I
he
just
loved
want to
them,
remember it.
while also mentioning that he had managed to make it
Because I
out
don't
of his
think I've heard
car,
of it.
and that he believed he was going to be safe. Though sadly, this wasn't actually the case,
Looks like Nova
as
Scotia.
just minutes later, he would use his phone to snap this
Ooh,
picture.
fuck. I've seen that, but
He would then post the shot to Facebook with the caption, "And all I wanted to do was go home."
Bruh.
Moments later, worried onlookers would witness Darren's truck begin to roll before flipping over completely and disappearing into the raging water.
Drowning would
Darren's
be the
body
worst.
would be recovered days later, leaving him as one of the 5 victims to fall to this deadly flood.
Dude, that would suck.
Another chilling final photograph comes from an ex-couple who had been partaking on a hiking trip in the Alabama countryside.
Oh, that's your mistake.
18-year-old Jolie Callan and her boyfriend Lauren Bunner had been separated for some time, but the two decided to head out on one last hike
Nah,
as
why?
a chance for them to come to terms with the end of
Bunner.
Why the fuck would you do that? If an ex-girlfriend of mine were to ever be like, let's go for a hike, I'd be like, nah. Because fuck that, I don't trust you. There's no way that you would just... Like, Dark, if your ex asked you to go for a hike, what would you say? Well, you might say yes because you're you, but... Bro. That's wild to me.
their relationship and hopefully start a new and civil friendship.
No,
By this time,
sorry.
Jolie
No.
had moved on with someone new and was all set to start college, but she wanted to remove any ill feelings with Lauren
Ugh.
as she began this new chapter in her life. Together,
Foop,
the
that
pair
bitch.
traveled up the mountains in Chia State Park, where Bunner would chronicle the entire day on his Instagram page.
Oh, no,
He
bro.
posted photos of Jolie walking her dog, as well as just taking in the gorgeous scenery
Bunner.
around them.
What does
With
Bunner
this
mean?
shot proving to be
What does that
incredibly
mean, Julia?
stunning, as it shows just how vast the woods were that surrounded them. Bunner would snap this picture before quickly posting it to Instagram
Bunner.
as a way to cherish
PP.
this memory, his last memory with Jolie.
What was that comment?
Just moments after taking the picture, Bunner
Bunner.
would put his phone
I get it.
down and pull out a handgun that he had concealed in his pocket. He would then fire one shot in the back of Jolie's head, before flipping her around and shooting her once more to seal
Jesus
the deal.
Christ.
He then dragged her body to the edge of the cliff that she was seen here looking over, before pushing her off.
Wow.
Damn.
Bunner was arrested that day after turning himself in, as it was clearly an attack done out of jealous rage, as he took
Bro.
exception to the fact that Jolie was moving on with her life, leaving him in the past.
Good ending.
And it's likely that in this
No.
very moment, Jolie had no idea the fate that she was about to meet,
Like, I'm
and
sorry.
the plans that Lauren had for
No.
her that afternoon.
Probably.
But of all the final photo attack done out of jealous rage, as he took exception to the fact that Jolie was moving
She
on
asked.
with her life, leaving him in the
that
past.
was Jack.
And it's
That was
likely
not
that in
Jack.
this very moment,
I
Jolie
think she
had
asked.
no idea the fate that she was about to meet, and the plans that Lauren had for her that
Or did he
afternoon.
ask?
But
I
of all
thought
the
she
final
did.
photographs that I found recently, there's one that I find especially chilling, as it just leaves so much to the imagination.
what?
On June 6th,
I was curious which one, if the guy asked her to go for the hike or she asked the guy
Is
to go
this
for the
Riz?
hike. No, this is not Riz, bro.
Her.
Her.
2020. a
That's what
group
I
of
thought, but
friends
he
had
just
gathered
said
at
that he had
Fremont County
plans.
Park to celebrate 46-year-old Biba Henry's birthday. As
I
night
don't know.
started to fall and the party had begun to die down,
I mean, if
Biba
she-
and her sister Nicole Smallman
Can't really
decided
be
to
Biba.
stick around the park
Biba.
and continue the celebration, partying into the early morning hours. The two played music, danced,
That's
and
tough.
waved around
That one was
fairy
tough.
lights, enjoying the day as if it was their last. And wanting to document the festivities, the ladies would set up one of their phones and begin photographing themselves. The phone was connected to a clicker that the girls would use to snap over 100 pictures, documenting their night in this dark wooded area.
Thanks for the
The
likes, Riley.
pictures were a little grainy, and many of
Can you
which
guys
were
get me
hard
to-
to make
Her and
out,
Biba
but it
sitting
seemed
in a
as though the two were having a great
KISSING.
time. Or at least
So
they
immature,
had
bro.
been, until this final photograph.
The
It is
fuck?
incredibly blurry and difficult to make anything out, but the context behind it is highly
Can
disturbing.
you guys get me to 10,000
Just
likes?
comparing it to the photograph taken right beforehand, it appears as though both subjects had been posing for a photo before quickly turning to their left at the same time, almost as if something off camera had caught their attention and even startled them. You can see Nicole Smallman looking to her left,
Is that
and the
witch?
body of Biba Henry turning that way as well. But besides that, nothing else
I'm
can
liked
really
out
be
for a
made
bit.
out. Which makes it all the
You're
more
liked
bizarre
out? That's fine.
once it's
Don't worry
revealed
about it.
that this would be their last photograph, as the two would be found hours later, having suffered over 30 stab wounds,
3K
with their
the
bodies
max.
being hidden
Yeah.
under
No worries,
nearby
Dark.
brush.
I
The
appreciate
two
you, though.
women had been brutally murdered. Following a
Per
lengthy
hour.
investigation,
Yeah,
it
it's
would
all good.
eventually be determined that the two had been attacked that morning by 19-year-old Daniel
Who knew
Hassan,
victim?
and his motive was incredibly bizarre, as he
Oh,
believed that
Phantom.
he had made
What's
a
up, man?
deal with the devil, who had told
We're just reacting to some YouTube videos.
him that if he sacrificed 6 people every 6 months,
Why?
then he would one day win the Powerball
Oh
jackpot.
my fucking god, bro.
Daniel truly believed that the only thing standing in the way of him and millions of dollars was the sacrifice of 6 people. And so that's exactly what he tried to do. On the afternoon of Biba Henry's birthday, Daniel had seen their group in the park celebrating, and when the crowd dispersed to just 2 people,
That's the dumbest
he decided
shit.
it would be the perfect chance to perform his sacrifice. It was this
guy
moment,
pissed me off.
Damn,
this
that's what I
final
need to do.
photograph,
No,
of
bro.
the two seemingly noticing something on their left,
That
they
shit
would
dumb
see
pissed
their
me
killer
off now.
for the first time, as Daniel had just emerged from the woods,
Fucking loser.
standing just barely out of frame before he began his attack. In the
React
year
to
and a half
Skibidi
since
toilet
this
next.
photo was
No.
taken, Daniel has since been
Poppin'.
convicted of both murders.
Yeah, no
and set to
shit. What a
serve
dumbass,
minimum
bro.
of 35 years in prison, though I think it's likely that he will remain behind bars for life.
This guy irritated me.
And though the story is quite obviously a tragic one, we can at least find some comfort in the fact that Daniel will no longer be able to carry
Mute.
out the remainder of his
What do
sacrifices.
you mean mute?